Today, the Valley at the center of the Trump administration's border efforts. Two high-profile border officials spending the day here. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem speaking at the Border Security Expo, and border czar Tom Homan speaking at the state capitol.
We have team coverage tonight from both visits. Sean Rice at the Capitol. But let's start with Bianca Bono at the Phoenix Convention Center with what Noem had to say. Bianca.
Yeah, well, for 2 days, the Phoenix Convention Center has become home to the Border Security Expo. It's a massive event bringing together government officials, those in law enforcement, and companies in the private sector. They're all coming together to discuss trends in their field and also to talk about solutions to problems that they're identifying. But the big event of the day was the keynote speech from Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem. She took the stage around 2:15 this afternoon, and she spoke to a packed ballroom full of people from all different backgrounds from all over the world. She talked about her background, why she wanted this job, and her goals when it comes to border security and immigration operations. She also talked about the Alien Enforcement Act, which just yesterday the Supreme Court allowed President Trump to enforce in order to more rapidly deport alleged gang members. And just this morning, Secretary Noem shared on social media that she actually tagged along with ICE officials here in Phoenix during one of their field operations. Homeland Security's special agent in charge here in Arizona tells me this was a pre-planned field operation, part of what he describes as their 24/7 enforcement work, but she did happen to be here for this. He said that the individuals apprehended were already on their target list prior to her visit, but today she talked about why she believes enforcement actions like that are necessary. Take a listen.
During one of my trips down to the border, when I was still serving as governor, I remember one of our Border Patrol officers and agents saying to me, listen, there's just no consequences for crossing our border. And without consequences, there is no enforcement and there is no law. The law doesn't matter. And that impacted me in such a way that it affects every way that I do this job today. There has to be consequences for breaking our laws. And there has to be consequences and there has to be enforcement and prosecution.
And Secretary Noem's ride along here in Phoenix this morning has sparked some backlash, including from Senator Ruben Gallego. He has been openly critical of the way that she handled her firearm and for what he describes as a lack of due process for those who are being apprehended and deported. Now, as I mentioned, this two-day conference has a wide variety of attendees. We also just sat in on a pretty interesting panel with the heads of most Arizona agencies when it comes to the border, ranging from Homeland Security to Border Patrol, where they talked about our immigration enforcement statistics and trends. We will have much more from that panel and what those leaders here in Arizona had to say coming up tonight at 6 and 10. For now, we're live in Phoenix. Bianca Bono, 12 News.
All right, Bianca, looking forward to your reports later on tonight. Thank you. Let's continue our coverage now with the border czar's visit. It was at our state capitol, and that's where Sean Rice is live now. Sean?
Yeah, Troy, good evening to you. Trump-appointed border czar Tom Homan was invited here today to speak in front of a joint session of Arizona lawmakers, specifically by Arizona House and Senate Republicans. What he spoke about is really to give both sides of the aisle an update on how the first 3 months of what's been described as America's largest deportation operation in our history. He wanted to tell them how that has been going. His speech today was really a rallying cry for Republicans, but certainly was met by some hostility by their Democratic colleagues.
Director Tom Homan.
Stepping into the chambers of Arizona's House.
We want the most secure border in my lifetime to unprecedented illegal migration.
Border czar Tom Homan, a special advisor to President Donald Trump, made his message clear.
For the first time in the history of this nation, have total operational control of our southern border under President Trump. It's going to happen. You can take that to the bank.
It's the mission handed to him by Trump to secure the border, run a deportation operation, and find missing children. Homan made it clear Immigrations and Customs Enforcement is prioritizing convicted criminals and national security threats, but he says anyone who is in Arizona illegally or any other state in the union is on the table for deportation.
And ICE is going to arrest them because that is their job, that's the oath they took, and that's the laws of this nation.
Homan's speech was met with pushback by Democratic lawmakers who, within seconds of Homan standing in the spotlight, left the House chambers, raising pieces of paper above their heads.
So these papers are the names of people who have been disappeared by the Trump administration. There has been dozens of people who have been deported without due process.
Democratic State Senator Annalise Ortiz joined protesters outside the Capitol, voicing their opposition to Homan and ICE amid claims that longtime residents are getting swept up in deportation raids.
It is people that are law-abiding, tax-paying citizens of our community who have contributed to our economies who've been deported. They are not just going after criminals.
That show of resistance inside and outside the Capitol having very little impact on Tuesday's keynote speaker.
They can walk out of the room and hold all the signs that they want because Tom Homan ain't shutting up and Tom Homan ain't going away.
And this afternoon, Homan also applauded multiple legislative efforts here by specifically Republicans. First was the Secure the Border Act, passed by voters this past November, and another piece of legislation called the Arizona ICE Act, which is currently under consideration here at the Capitol. Those are both pieces of legislation Homan said are certainly helping them at the federal level. We're live outside the Arizona State Capitol. Sean Rice, 12 News.
All right, Sean, thank you for that.